Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Maddie's Rap, the show where we rap about things that guys rap about when we're hanging out. Now, the hottest thing out here right now, and this has been trending now for close to a week, if not a little longer, is the Gayle King interview with Lisa Leslie. Now, when that story first broke, a certain movie came to mind for me. And actually, when the story first broke, but not just the story, the reaction to the interview. And I gotta say, a certain movie came to mind for me. That movie was actually a TV miniseries from 1986. Take a look at this clip.
Da basit.
Da basit. It is I, Febana.
Tell me, Febana, how do you trap a monkey?
Well, a gourd is used with a narrow neck. Bait is dropped into the gourd. A piece of fruit or something shiny. The monkey puts his hand down into the neck of the gourd. And then he grabs the bait. And then he's trapped. Because he can't get his fist out.
Once he realizes he is trapped, why doesn't the monkey let go of the bait?
Because his greed makes him blind.
And what is he greedy for? Febana.
I suppose what he thinks he cannot have.
Bait your God again, Febana. My heart yearns for something shiny.
And cozy, that yearning which has brought about everything that has happened was as much your fault as it is mine. But hating my people is not the solution. We must search for another. Together.
Together? No, Febana. You've proved that you are never with me. You're a man with no nation. You're a shadow. Go. I have no need for you anymore.
Okay, So for those of you who may be wondering why I chose that particular clip and how that plays in, well, some of you probably kind of already get it, but some of you may not. And so first off, I want to tell you, if you've never seen the 1986 miniseries Shaka Zulu, you should watch it. It was a very well done series. It was put on by the South African Broadcasting Company, and they did a fantastic job. So I highly recommend you see it if you haven't seen it yet. I think it's available on DVD for purchase at Amazon. Well, what isn't at Amazon, right? No plugs for Amazon. Amazon, I'm not plugging you guys because you're not paying me to do that. But anyway, getting back to what I wanted to say here, Gayle has kind of found herself in a very similar predicament. I think, this is just my opinion, this is Maddie's Rap, this is what guys talk about. I think that Gayle has found herself in a very similar predicament as the lieutenant did in that particular scene. Now, she's in a precarious situation because, first of all, it's been about a week now, and that interview is still trending. So you can see that there were a lot of people that were hurt by that. And I have to say that I understand that she apologized, and I actually thought that she made a very fair point when she said, I wish the network had not chosen that particular segment to show to everyone, and that they had perhaps shown maybe a different part of it where I talked about all of the great work that Kobe did and this, that, and the third. And then, of course, you saw the clapback by Snoop Dogg, and I thought that was I have to say, a lot of people were not happy with his language choice and the name that he used at the end. No disrespect to Gayle, but that was probably one of the funniest snaps I've ever heard in my life. I'm just keeping it 100. All right, this is Maddie's Rap. When we rap, I'm giving you a fly on the wall experience for what we talk about when the fellas are hanging out. That funky doghead expletive, I'm not gonna say the word because my mom might be watching this, so I'm not gonna say the word, but that was one of the funniest snaps I've ever heard. I'm telling my age by saying snaps. We used to snap back as a kid back in the day. Some people call it playing the dozens. When I was a kid in New York, it was called snapping. And, anyway, let me get off of that. Getting back to what I was saying there, that was one of the funniest things. But that comment aside, he brought up some very good points. Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King have been apparently going in on brothers for a minute. And yet some of the same people, and I don't want to be redundant because you've heard this in a lot of the other commentary, but getting back to what I was going to say about Gayle King, I thought she made some fair points. And so because of her points and because of the fact that prior to seeing her apology video, I had not seen the entire video, I went back and watched it. Take a look.
Oh, that one's signed.
For years, WNBA star Lisa Leslie has had Kobe Bryant's jersey on display in her home. But since his death, it's taken on a special meaning.
He will be missed, but he will not be forgotten, that's for sure.
They met when Bryant was only 18 years old, before his rookie season with the Los Angeles Lakers and Leslie's debut with the Sparks. The two quickly became rising stars in LA basketball and grew close.
What do you remember about when you first met him?
I would go to the house and he'd be like, Lise. I'm like, what? Lise, come here. Watch this. So he's watching Jordan videos.
Michael Jordan videos?
Michael Jordan. He's clicking the pause and look, Lise, watch.
So he studied Michael Jordan?
Beyond studied. I mean, he would obsess over watching these videos. He imitated everything Jordan did.
Like?
If you watch Kobe's interviews, like the way he talks, the way he moves his mouth, when he licks his lip, when he puts his tongue out when he played, everything was about Michael Jordan, and that's the player that meant everything to him, and he wanted to be great. Not good, but great, like Michael Jordan.
When people say arrogant and aloof, that's not what you remember about him. I know it's so interesting to people
arrogance.
That know him. There is arrogance.
Absolutely, but the arrogance is not in everyday life. The arrogance is in the world of basketball.
On the basketball court, you're saying?
On the basketball court, no. You're not my friend, and I'm not your friend. And it's either kill or be killed. I'm going to attack you. I'm going for the jugular at all times.
What does Kobe's death, what does his loss mean to women's basketball?
You know, he was really making change.
Was he?
Yes, he's
How so?
changing the mindsets of other men more than anybody else. He's giving us, he's validating us, if you will, these young ladies who are out there playing, the fact that he's enjoying and being entertained by great basketball. It made other men feel, I'm hoping, like, what is this about? Like, it's good.
I've heard that sometimes he would spend more time at WNBA games now than he would at the Lakers games. True?
Well, it's true, but I think it's also because Gigi wanted to see certain players, and she was into it. And he talked about just, you know, I remember seeing him, he was like, Lise, like, she got it. She got it. You know, he was just like, she got it.
It's tough, Lisa, looking at the pictures of him and Gigi together, playing basketball, sitting on the sidelines. It really does take your heart and rip it out when I see those pictures.
Yes. We know what Kobe's accomplished, but Gigi she didn't have the full opportunity to do that, because you just know that she had the mentality. Mamacita was going to make it. She was going to be in the WNBA.
It's been said that his legacy is complicated because of the sexual assault charge, which was dismissed in 2003, 2004. Is it complicated for you as a woman, as a WNBA player?
It's not complicated for me at all. Even if there's a few times that we've been at a club at the same time, Kobe's not the kind of guy, never been like, you know, Lisa, go get that girl, or tell her, or send her this. I have other NBA friends that are like that. Kobe's, he was never like that. I just never have ever seen him being the kind of person that would do something to violate a woman or be aggressive in that way. That's just not the person that I know.
But Lisa, you wouldn't see it though. As his friend, you wouldn't see it.
And that's possible. I just don't believe that. And I'm not saying things didn't happen. I just don't believe that things didn't happen with force.
Is it even a fair question to talk about it, considering he's no longer with us and that it was resolved? Or is it really part of his history?
I think that the media should be more respectful. At this time, it's like if you had questions about it, you've had many years to ask him that. I don't think it's something that we should keep hanging over his legacy. I mean, it went to trial.
Yeah, with the cases, it was dismissed because the victim in the case refused to testify, so it was dismissed.
And I think that's how we should leave it.
So, you could see from that interview why Gayle made the point that she made about, hey, I wish the network would have shown the entire segment versus a little piece of it, the piece that was the most salacious, in her words. But again, I gotta say that I'm not gonna call it ingenuous, because that's a judgment call. I'm not gonna say it's an ingenuous apology. I'll leave that to the people. Okay, I'm gonna try to set an example of journalism a little bit. But you know, to recap that, and I took some notes there. One of the things that made that apology a little less effective is her line of questioning. Now, a lot of you may not know this. I've got 4 years experience as a professional journalist myself. I used to write for an arts and entertainment magazine in the Charlotte area, and did writing, did editing. I did a lot of stuff there. So I understand, you know, the job of a journalist, which is to try and perhaps represent the voice of the people, and to take as much of yourself and your opinion out of it as possible, unless you're writing an op-ed, which is something completely different, or opinion editorial, which is something completely different. But as a general journalist, one of the things, and everybody's free to kind of put their own slant on whatever story they're covering or whatever they're writing, because I mean, you're seeing it through your own eyes. So journalism is art to a degree. But your job is still to try to represent the people as best you can, and try to take maybe, you know, I mean, it's okay to put a little of you in it, but you also kind of want to be the voice for the people. So I understand why she did what she did, but there were 3 parts in there that made it look like, when you got to the end, it just, you were like, well, you know, why did she do that? Why couldn't she have done it differently? So I'm gonna recap what she did. I mean, I know you just saw the video. I'm gonna recap what she did and tell you what I thought was wrong with it. Now, her question was, it's been said that his legacy is complicated because of a sexual assault charge. Is it complicated for you? Is what she asked Lisa. Lisa came back and said, just to paraphrase and keep it short, she said, I've never seen Kobe do something aggressive to violate a woman. That wasn't the person that I know. That should have been good enough. But what she came back with that seemed to be more personal than general journalism was, but Lisa, you wouldn't see it though. As his friend, you wouldn't see it. Now, to me, I say pause right there. That was to me, that was a bit leading. And to me, it was a bit of an insult to it's a bit of an insult to Lisa's character as a woman. And, I don't know if this happened by chance or if this was intentional, but I was talking to one of my boys today, and and through the conversation, I realized that there was kind of a choice put before Lisa with the way that line of questioning was presented, especially when she said, but you wouldn't see it though. It is almost like, because the whole thing about, as a WNBA player, is it complicated for you? It's almost like Gayle's questioning. I don't want to say Gayle. It's almost like Gayle's questioning put Lisa into the position where she either had to choose her friendship with a man that was accused of something terrible or align her allegiance with women. And that was, to me, that was completely unfair. Don't put her into that position. Now, the way Lisa handled it was splendid. Let me get back here to these notes. She says, but Lisa, you wouldn't see it though. As his friend, you wouldn't see it. Lisa came back and said, I don't believe that. I just don't believe that things happened with force. Gayle says, okay. And she kind of got off of it. And then she went back to being a general journalist when she asked, these things never fit my ear right. When she came back and asked, is it even a fair question to talk about it, considering that he's no longer with us and that it was resolved, or is it a part of his history? That was a good journalistic question there, because you put two opposing ideologies there. And actually those two opposing ideologies exist. We've seen people that were saddened by the loss of a great human being, let alone basketball player, who had a blip, who had a mistake, a blip, a blemish. Okay, he's without sin cast the first stone, right? He's a human being that had a blemish on his life. But you know what? He got past that and moved on. Okay? He was a human being with a blemish. Now, but then there's the other side that says, hey, you know what? Look at what he did and blah, 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 and are upset and couldn't let it go and said some pretty nasty things that I won't repeat. Okay. Comedian Godfrey covered in depth one of those people that he didn't like to have something nasty to say. I like comedian Godfrey too. Shout out to him. But I won't say that. Just look up Godfrey and you'll know who he had beef with. I don't even want to say the guy's name. I'm not even giving him that. So she did a good journalistic thing there by basically presenting two opposing arguments. That is good journalism there. And she stayed in the middle of it versus interjecting her. You wouldn't see it though. I mean, you're his friend. You wouldn't see it. That's where she messed up. Now, to me, Lisa's eloquent and regal response was one for the history books. And to me, it speaks volumes of the skill, intelligence, elegance, and eloquence that is the unsung melody of Black women the world over. So to me, that was the brightest spot in the entire interview. And I think Lisa, to me, was a beacon of just regality. I mean, that is what Lisa did, and the way she handled herself and the way that she didn't allow the situation to deteriorate, which she could have. I know a lot of sisters that would have clapped on Gayle right there. They'd have stopped it. Stop the interview. Hold on, wait, take my mic off. Let me tell you something. Lisa didn't do that. She was very ladylike, and Gayle got off of it. And I'm not sure what she was looking for or what type of response she thought she was going to get. But nonetheless, it's still trending. And I think listen, I'm going to say this, and I was going to save it to the end, but I'm going to say this now. In my opinion, there was no reason for that question to be asked. And the sad part in all of this is that I'm not even sure that in her asking that question, she even considered how Miss Vanessa Bryant would take that if she were to see that interview. I mean, as a journalist, you should have, I mean, when you're at her level, you should have a little bit of liberty to structure an interview the way you want to. So in line with what Snoop was saying, I don't believe that someone asked her to ask that question or slide that in there. And furthermore, it couldn't have been, because to me, the original question, which was, it's been said that his legacy is complicated. She's representing opinions of the public when you say it's been said. She never said I said, but when she came in and said you wouldn't see it, you're his friend, you wouldn't see it. The way you probably should have done that, Gayle, if you're watching this, is you maybe should have said, Lisa, what would you say to the people that said, well, Lisa's just saying that because she's his friend? That's how you do that. That's how you take yourself out of it, okay? If you want to try to cover those people, that smaller percentage of people that didn't like Kobe Bryant by asking that follow-up, you have to take yourself out of it by saying, what would you say? What would you say to the people who would say that you're just saying that because you're his friend? That's how you do that. So I'm going to wrap this up, but I don't want to wrap this up without showing the other side of it. And that is, to me, one of the most outspoken supporters of Gayle King and all of this, which was Michael Eric Dyson. So I'm going to show you the clip of his response, and I'm going to tell you what I thought was right with his response and what I thought was wrong with his response. And before I do that, just in case I forget at the end, because I might get a little excited, I'm going to say this right now. If you have not done so already, please give this video a thumbs up and like it, subscribe it. Subscribe to my channel. Don't subscribe to the video. Subscribe to my channel and share it. Share it with a friend. Share it with a friend if you like this video. Share it with somebody. If you're watching this on Facebook, drop a comment. Let's have a conversation around it. And anyway, let me get back to let's get back to this clip of Michael Eric Dyson's response to the Snoop Dogg response.
The response to Gayle King's interview with Lisa Leslie contains many elements that I think are deeply and profoundly problematic. To begin with, I loved Kobe Bryant and mourn him to this day. I wrote the essay in Slam magazine, the cover story on Kobe Bryant when he retired, calling him the best ever. So I love him, appreciate him, and more especially love what he did with his life after that horrendous event in Colorado. Many people, me included, believed Kobe Bryant when he said he did not rape that young lady. And yet he apologized to her because he recognized that though he thought it was a moment of consent, she did not. And instead of attempting to demonize her, he owned up to his own complicity in a situation that led this young woman to believe that he had done something to her against her will. And in confessing his own apology, he did not say that he raped her. He did not believe he did. He believed, therefore, in retrospect, that she did, and owned up to acknowledging the horrendous consequences of what happened. And not only did he give an apology, his life changed in the aftermath. When you notice Kobe Bryant's trajectory from that moment on, here was a man who was deeply and profoundly committed to his wife. He confessed his adultery to her. He apologized for that in public as well. And then he went on to have 4 daughters with her, and to embrace women's sport, and to make certain that his own life was a testimony to the profound transformation that he endured as a young black man in America, and embracing his responsibilities. Yes, he acknowledged that there had to be change, a paradigm shift in his own life. And he didn't have to say that. He evidenced it in his own life, in his own living and transformation. And so I understand people who are deeply and profoundly upset at that interview between Gayle King and Lisa Leslie. I understand that. And there's a legitimate platform to be had by questioning whether Miss King should have raised it in that fashion. But think about it this way. Without her having raised it, Lisa Leslie would not have had the opportunity to speak to it in a profoundly compelling and cogent fashion.
So,
Because Gayle King,
up until that point, I pretty much agree with all of Michael Eric Dyson's statements, and but that's about where our road together ends. We start to we meet our fork in the road when his conversation turned.
Gayle King was not the only person asking that question. I didn't notice this venomous outrage by black celebrities and stars against the young white woman reporter from the Washington Post who didn't simply ask a question about Kobe Bryant's time in Colorado and the horrendous situation that occurred. She released an article, right, or reposted an article that talked about Kobe Bryant as actually having committed this particular crime for which there was no legal finding because after 14 months, the case was dismissed because the young woman refused to testify. We know.
Okay, in response to that comment by Mr. Michael Eric Dyson, why didn't black folk go after the white journalist that painted such a grotesque picture of Kobe Bryant like they went after Gayle? I would think that Michael would know the answer to that. I mean, history has taught us that history has taught black folks to expect that type of response from the white media. I'm just keeping it 100. Okay. Furthermore, history has also taught us that on the plantation, that whip always hurt more and stung longer when the person holding the whip was a fellow slave. I mean, you know, when you give that whip to another slave to beat you, not only does it hurt physically, it hurts mentally because you're like, wow, you and me supposed to be in the same boat, and you're gonna beat me? Why? So anyway, am I wrong? Let's get on to it.
It was complicated, as Gayle King said. We know that it was. Kobe Bryant himself admitted that. So we didn't go after that young white woman in the same venomous way that we're going after Gayle King. Gayle King is a journalist, and Gayle King must be held accountable for the things she said. She has responded in a video talking about the way in which it was extricated from a broader interview, and that her own company may have disserved her by only presenting that. But
and we kind of already talked about that. I mean, your company can't hang you out to dry. Your company can't hang you out to dry if you don't give them the clothespins, so to speak. Okay. Don't give them the clothespin and then be upset when they hang you out to dry. She could have left that little statement, but Lisa, you wouldn't. You're his friend. You wouldn't. She could have left that out. So don't be mad at the network for beating you when you handed them the whip. All right. On with the rest of Mr.
Here's the point I want to make. That for Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey, who have done far more good for black people than harm, Oprah Winfrey has been assaulted as well. Oprah Winfrey, as a journalist, must be held to account as well.
Oprah Winfrey, as a journalist, must be held to account as well. Is Oprah a journalist, or is she a network owner? See, this is what I'm talking about. Maybe that's part of the problem. Why are you still running around chasing stories when you're a network owner? Do you see any other network owners out here running around chasing stories, or do they hire people that do that? Anyway, back to Mr. Dyson's comments.
As she is willing to admit, she changed her mind about participation in the Russell Simmons documentary. She opened her own understanding of American Dirt, the novel that was produced, and said, I got it wrong. And so let me bring in people who are critical of some of the moments in American Dirt and the impetus of a white woman to write about indigenous experiences and Latinx experiences in a way that is not profound and complicated and nuanced, and therefore is willing to say, let me change my mind and engage those people as well. So you can have legitimate critiques of Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King. You can legitimately ask them, what about their viewpoints about Harvey Weinstein and Al Franken and Charlie Rose versus a Kobe Bryant, right? That's a legitimate critique. What is not legitimate is to, in a vicious sense, assault them, This cancel culture has to be ended, has to itself be canceled. All the good that Oprah Winfrey has done, I have seen her in the home of Susan Taylor take pictures for 2 hours straight when Susan wanted to cut it off after an hour, thinking that Oprah would be inundated and unfairly treated. And Oprah insisted, I will take every picture with every black woman and man who stands in line to see me. And she dismissed them from groups. She said, no, you must have your individual picture. She has given...
I'm sorry, but taking pictures with adoring fans for an additional hour or two does not in any way come close to recovering the damage done to other fans by some of your going in on people who are no longer here. On stuff that was really not even proven, okay? But anyway.
She has given millions of dollars to young black men in Chicago. She has supported many young black men in education at Morehouse College. So to reduce the complexity and nuance and the sweep and trajectory of her career to one event is deeply and profoundly problematic.
Okay, now I don't disagree with you there. You know, if you're coming out of your pocket, giving money to help students and people in your city that you live in, much respect to you. But there's also a Bible verse that says, let not your good be evil spoken of. I don't know that exactly applies here, but I think you can apply it in a sense, because if you're doing all of this good, but then you going back and erasing it with, anyway, let's carry on.
Last year at the NBA All-Star Weekend called on me to raise what she knew would be a challenging question to Nikki Haley, who was trying to be disingenuous about her particular perspective. And I wanted to confront her in this mostly white audience. Gayle King singled me out and called upon me to challenge her.
Now, I'm going to stop it right there, because from where I sit, Gayle King may have wanted those questions raised to Nikki Haley, but to say that that's doing good for black folks by, first of all, her asking you to do that is more of a favor or more something that she did good for you. But I mean, what does that do for everybody? Now, that being said, I will say that if I'm trying not to upset any of my conservative base by going after another conservative in politics, then yeah, I might ask somebody who could give a crap about going in on a conservative to go in on a conservative. So I'm just telling you, this is how it looks from out here in the audience, all right? Carry on.
We cannot reduce the complexity and nuance and sweep of a person's career to a mistake or a choice that they make.
That would be a fair statement if it were the first time. But when you see a pattern, you have to question whether or not it's a mistake. Is it a mistake or is it intentional when you see a pattern? I agree with you 100% if someone makes a mistake one time, but when they make the same type of mistake time and time again, yeah, I'm not sure you can call that a mistake anymore. Just saying.
If you want to honor Kobe Bryant, don't go online calling women bitches and hoes and skeezers and sluts and hood rats and chicken heads. If you want to honor Kobe Bryant, love black women. Black women have stood up for black men far more than black men have stood up for black women. From Ida B. Wells, who led the anti-lynching campaign, down to Susan Taylor, who's dealing with mentoring young black people, especially black boys in this society. Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey have done far more good.
I'm not sure that that's a good comparison. I mean, because when you talk about Ida B. Wells and Susan Taylor, and I think I speak for all black men when I say this, we don't see them or haven't seen them tearing down the black man publicly in one voice, and then in another turn it around and allegedly doing or supposedly doing good or apparently doing good. So I'm not sure that's a fair comparison there. Yes, to your point, Oprah and Gayle have done a lot of good, but they've also damaged the hearts and minds of a lot of black men. They say, man, what like Snoop said, what do we got when our own women, our own sisters are tearing us down publicly in the media and such? You know, there's something my mom used to say to us when we were kids. I mean, my mother had, she raised 5 boys and 1 girl. And she used to tell us all the time, look, I see y'all around here hitting and stuff. First of all, stop hitting each other. But if for y'all to do this or call each other names and stuff here in the house, I don't want to hear it. But I definitely don't want to hear about it in the street. When you're in the street, you treat your brother better than anybody else would. You let the public, you let everybody in the street see you treating your brother kindly. See you treating your brother good. Because if they hear you calling your own brother names, guess what? They're going to think it's okay for them to do it too. That is how my mother raised us. And though me and my brothers, we my mother had a troop of alpha males. She had a troop of alphas. We were raised by alphas. My dad, my uncles, my grandfather, we are alphas raised by alphas. But you know what? Even though we go at it behind closed doors or online or in text messages occasionally, we might say something out of the way to each other. You're not going to talk to, we don't talk to each other like that in front of other people because of the way my mother raised us. When you talk, when people in the street see you disrespecting your brother, they're going to think it's okay for them to do it. If people see you in the street disrespecting your spouse, they're going to say, man, he ain't or she ain't. You know what I'm saying? So I just think that's not a fair comparison. It's not a good comparison.
Let's not try to demonize them and disrespect them and insult them in ways that are contradictory to what Kobe Bryant would want. If Kobe Bryant were alive, he would find this reprehensible. He would say, stop this. The black mama was not down with that. What was he about? Loving and elevating and appreciating black women. That's what we've got to do.
I agree with you there, Mr. Dyson. But I will say this, you know, when you open that, if you slap a dog enough, you can't get mad at that dog for biting you. I'm just saying, I agree with you. We should not be denigrating black women. I'll be the first one to tell you that and agree with you. I'll stand up and wave a flag on that. I agree with you. But when your sisters are disrespecting you time and time again, and you see these images, and it's always, again, people who look like you holding a whip, beating you with it, seemingly for the master's pleasure, as we saw on the plantation. After a while, it starts to hurt you, and you're going to say ouch, and you can't get mad for how that person says ouch. Just saying. So I agree with you, but that's a meet me in the middle type of situation.
We cannot afford to continue to do this vicious thing where we hate on each other to the degree that we then dishonor the contributions that our women have made. Isn't that ironic? The very people who are talking about black people hurting other black people are hurting other black people. And if you're a black man and if you want to help black people, then stop making rap records that call women out of their name. If you want to be a black man who celebrates black women, then criticize some of those rappers. And I love rap. I got a book on Jay-Z out right now. Wrote a book on Tupac, one on Nas. I love hip hop. But you got to be critical. I find it just too rich and even ironic that rappers are speaking out, some of whom I love, against Gayle King, using horrible invective against her, not understanding that we have poisoned the well of perception of black women and black people far more than anything that Gayle King and Oprah Winfrey have done.
Here's another point where I agree with you on the denigration of black women in some of these rap lyrics. But let me say this, and again, Michael Eric Dyson, I would expect to understand why that's taking place. I mean, he's an outspoken activist for equal rights. It's from what I've seen. I've seen him in the news media. I've seen him standing up and blowing the horn for black folk. But let me say this, I would expect him to understand why you see this denigration of black women and calling bees and hoes and all of this stuff and the culture of rap music today and how women are represented. Let me roll the clock back about 30 years when we had more socially conscious rap coming from rappers. We know what's happening now. We know that the record companies are not interested in socially and morally conscious rap music. They're not interested in it. But if you're talking about tearing somebody down and bees and hoes and shooting each other, they're all for promoting that. So I understand your point, but in the same token that people are making the argument that Gayle perhaps and Oprah are taking money from these networks and to do these documentaries and such, and they run these stories and these journalistic pieces that tear down the black man, they're no better. They're no better because it's the same thing. It's like the people in control do not want to pay money to see the positive side of black culture. They would rather pay money to see the negative side. So you can't necessarily get mad at somebody who's trying to eat, and that's the only way they can eat in their mind. So I hear what you're saying, but understand why that's taking place. With every what, there's a connected why. That's the central theme in all of the books that I write. With every what, there's a connected why. And that's the why with the what. The what is all brothers are talking bad about sisters, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The why is because they're music artists, and the music industry that's got the dollars is not interested in hearing them uplift the community. They're not interested in hearing them say things that make you turn your thinking cap on. But if you're writing music and rapping about stuff and putting beats out there and music that's tearing each other down, they paying money for that. So understand that that's the reason why, and maybe in the next commentary, look for ways to even address that. How do we address that?
Listen to the words of Tupac. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and our game from a woman, I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women. Do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, to be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. That's what we got to do. We got to love our women, elevate our black women, and make certain that we love them with a passion in the same way that the hate that rolls through our veins, is expressed in such venomous fashion.
Okay, the problem I have with that statement is it's almost as if he's suggesting that we don't. We know that the media loves focusing on the small percentage of negativity. For example, you can go into any media market and turn on the 5 o'clock news and hear for 15 or 20 minutes who got shot, what got burned down, or whatever. But is that representative of the community or that neighborhood or that city or that section of the city, or that city as a whole? It's not. Is that representative of the majority of that city? No. So in the same token, you're saying that, oh, we got to stop tearing down the black. But I would bet if there were an honest survey taken that you would find that there's an overwhelming majority of black men that celebrate black women, just like you're saying we should be doing. Because I know I do. I can't speak for everybody, but I know I do. And I don't believe I'm the only one. I believe that there are many more just like me. I believe that for every one brother that's tearing down the sisters, I believe there's 15 to 20 brothers who isn't. But you know what? We're so busy looking at what the media is telling us what to think that we think exactly what they're telling us to think. There's no way you're going to tell me that the majority of brothers feel in the negative way that you're portraying right here. So I'm just saying, let's start looking at the whole pie and not a slice of it. I don't believe that the majority of black men are tearing, but if that's all you ever hear, oh, black men tearing down black women, black men, then that's going to be your narrative. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this video right now. If you don't tell your story and you sit back and let somebody else tell it, then you cannot be mad if the story comes out of their mouth in a way that you don't agree with and you're not saying anything. You got to control your narrative. You have to. You have to. If somebody's saying something about you that's not true, you better pipe up. You better pipe up, because if you don't, then people are going to say, oh, well, it must be true. Anyway, I'm going to let them finish this little piece of it, and then I'm going to add some final thoughts and wrap this video up. I thank you guys for watching. This has been a longer edition of Maddie's Rap, and I would have loved to have had my guest host, my recurring guest host, Brian Moore of the Be More Faithful show, but radio show. But I might do a follow up or something with him or something. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
Be critical, yes. Hold to account, yes. But this kind of behavior is antithetical to the very love ethic that runs through our race and that black women have been willing to die for, and to establish their bona fides by defending black men far more than we had defended us. Shame on us. We got to do better.
No. Michael and Mr. MED has got to do better with painting the picture of black men, because all of that negative stuff that he just spewed out in defense of Gayle King does not represent the majority of us. Okay? It does not represent the majority of us. So anyway, I'm gonna wrap this up. Guys, listen, thank you for watching. This has been an interesting couple of weeks. The whole Kobe thing, a lot of us still aren't over it. It's still the sting of his loss and the loss of everyone else that was on that helicopter is still being felt today. But I will say that while this video, that's not the subject of this video, this whole thing is still trending with this Gayle King story. In a sense, it's a good thing that it dropped, because it's forcing us to have conversations like we have right now, or what we're having right now, this monologue that I'm having right now with you guys, dialogue. Hopefully you'll leave some comments. But in closing, if you were to say, Matt, if you had any advice for Oprah Winfrey and Gayle, and I know Gayle is the one that did the interview. Everybody keeps talking about Oprah, but they're like Batman and Robin. Okay, so when you see one, you see the other one. I think that if I had any advice for those two ladies, I would say that if you're going to continue in journalism and running stories, which I still don't know why you're doing it, when you're making boss paper, you're making boss money, and you're running around doing the work of someone who isn't at your level economically, and that one escapes me. But my advice would be this: study some old footage of Ed Bradley. Ed Bradley, the late great Ed Bradley. Ed Bradley of CBS was the man. I've never seen a more smooth interviewer in all of my life. And I often said, when I was a kid, I said, man, if I ever got up to be able to interview anybody, man, Ed Bradley is the benchmark. If I were to grow up to be a television journalist or an interviewer and interview people, Ed Bradley is the benchmark. So my advice would be, study Ed Bradley, study his style, study the way he approached interviews, and maybe take a few tips from him. I can't say that Ed Bradley would have done anything like what we saw with Leaving Neverland. What we saw with this. Now I'm not knocking her for the R. Kelly interview, whatever. Actually, I thought she did a good job with that. But that's a story for another day. I'll leave that alone. I'm talking about the current events. This whole Lisa Leslie interview. So study Ed Bradley, learn from him. Ed Bradley was the man. He's the benchmark. He's who people should aspire to be, who they should aspire to be like, as far as being a television journalist. And last thing I'll say, Lisa Leslie, if you see this, I tip my hat to you, Queen. I do. I tip my hat to you, Queen. You did your thing. You maintained your demeanor. You maintained your ladylike presence. You didn't let a disrespectful question cause you to get off kilter at all. Look here, you kept that thing in the road. You hit some crosswinds, but you kept that tractor trailer in the road, and you got it to its destination. And I would hope that young girls watching that interview would use you as an example of how a lady conducts herself when someone is disrespectful. And boys too, for that matter. I mean, anybody can learn from that. Lisa, you did your thing. Anyway, I know this has been a long episode of Maddie's Rap. Guys, thanks for watching. You've been watching Maddie's Rap. Again, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, share it with a friend. If you're watching this on Facebook or IG, well, this is a little bit too long for IG, but if you're watching this on Facebook, drop a comment. Let's talk about it. Anyway, this has been another episode of Maddie's Rap. I'm your host, author Matt D. Talford, and check out the links in the description. Check me out on my blog at www.mdtalford.com. And you know what? Subscribe to my blog too. I write some pretty cool stuff from time to time. I'm trying to write in there more, to be honest. But anyway, you kind of take life as it comes. You guys have a great one. I've enjoyed it. Peace. Wait, let me say this right. For Maddie's Rap with author Matt D. Talford, this is a wrap. Peace.